this is Sonia with Artsy Solutions, and welcome to week 3 of 52 of using up old scraps. So this week I decided to make some flat pens, and basically all I did was I just took some scrap papers and collaged them onto some solid white paper that I stamped on, and then I just kind of stitched around the edges of each one of them, and I did some stamping on them, on each one of them, and then just sealed them together with some double-sided tape. And then I went back over the top of it after they were sealed, and I used some liquitex gel medium to make sure that the collaged pieces wouldn't come apart. So this is what the first one looks like, double-sided. It says enjoy the journey, and I use the Tim Holtz Life's Possibilities, the Journey, and Ringmaster. And then here's this one. And I also took some gesso across the paper. I took some gesso across the collage just to kind of blend in the stamped images and the glued on papers. It's a really simple project. Anyone can do it. You can use your scraps and just throw some stuff together, and it does not take long at all to make these. It really doesn't. So stay tuned, and I'm going to show you how I made these. Okay, so I'm going to make some flat pens, and I just have some of these maximum value ink pens. They come from the Dollar Tree ballpoint. And all I want to do is gut them. And the way to do that is you can take some needle nose pliers or flat nose, whatever, or clippers or something, basically just to break the shell. And be really careful because it can become somewhat sharp once it's cracked. This plastic can be really sharp. So you want to just basically dismantle it. You could probably crack it down here at the bottom. That way it'll just come right on out and you have your little spring. And you can actually keep your spring and use it on like a mixed media project. So yeah, just go ahead and take the rubber off of it. Clip it down here at the bottom. And be careful because when it cracks, it'll spray. So be careful. So I'm just going to take all of these out. But you want to be careful when you're cracking it, and don't do like I just did. I kind of bent it a little bit. No, it's not going to be any good because it's already leaving some residue. So just be careful when you're clipping it. Try to make sure you don't break it along the way. But you know what? Yeah, I could actually put some tape around it since it's going to be covered up with paper anyway. So just be really careful when you're doing that, when you're cracking it. But it's a really easy process, so. And you can get some of these pens elsewhere that are already loose, but if you want to do it the cheap route like me, you can just go to the Dollar Tree and hook yourself up. So this one's kind of bent a little bit, so I'll have to fix 2 of them with some tape. As a matter of fact, I think I'll just use some of this 8mm tape, double-sided tape, and get like some type of sharp item so you can peel off your double-sided tape. But you're going to need it double-sided tape anyway when you're putting the pins onto your paper to make the flat pins. Let's see. Hopefully this will work. Not sure which one I missed. Oh, here it is. Yeah, we're just gonna put some tape right here to cover it up. And hopefully that'll secure it enough to where the ink won't come out. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have to find some papers that are long enough to house these pins. And so I'm probably going to make a collage because some of these papers are so thin, or they're not long enough. So you basically want to have it long enough to fold down with maybe a little bit of extras at the top. Which is roughly about 9 1/4 inches long. So we're going to have to try to make some papers that are 9 1/4 inches long. They don't have to be very wide, they just have to be long enough. So I'm just going to make a collage of paper. I'm just going to glue on some different shades of papers, but like I did with all of my stuff, I'm going to distress the edges. It's just, I'm addicted to distressing. So any of the papers that I'm going to use, I'm just going to distress these edges because to me it just brings out the look better. And I'll keep it pretty simple. I may just only use just the white and this pink, just for time's sake. And then after this, after I glue this on, I'm probably going to run it through a sewing machine and stitch it, just so it can have, you know, more of a collaged look, you know. Stitching always makes stuff look better to me with my journals. Okay, so that's good enough right there. So now I'm just basically going to take some, well, I'm going to stamp on the background first. And I'm going to use the Stampers Anonymous stamp because I love the background of it. And it's just something quick and easy to do. I like the text that's on it. So I'm just going to take my pigment ink, some black pigment ink. Actually, I think I'll use brown. I'll use the same ColorBox brown. And I'm just going to randomly stamp. And then I'm just going to take some of this blue, this broken china. And I'm going to run this little stamp across just to kind of give it a little extra color. And then I think I will use some black, just a little bit. And I'll use the Ranger pigment ink. Okay, so now it has a decent background. So now I'm just going to glue these on, and I'm just going to paste it. And paste it on there. And I might just use some old book pages over top of this. I don't know yet. I'm not sure. Just to give it more color and definition. I've got some coffee stained paper that I'll use to add to this collage. Some of it's tea stain and some of it's coffee stain. And I'm just going to drag some of these across this brown just to give it more of a dark color. Okay. And I'm just going to glue these on. Okay. So now I'm just going to take some white gesso and lightly brush over top of it. And I'm just going to take a damp rag and just kind of loosen up some of that paint so that the images will still show through. And then I'm just going to take some of this embossing glaze, speckled egg, and I'm just going to lightly sprinkle a little dusting over top of it, just to kind of give it like a blue finish. And now I'm just going to dry it with an embossing tool. Okay, so it's pretty much dry, but see how the little bits and pieces stick up? I want to make sure that none of that's going to come up, so I'm just going to run some Mod Podge across it. And this is homemade, equal parts glue and water. I'm just going to run a thin coat across it and then dry it. I'm going to add some of this because this Mod Podge is a little bit thin. So I'm going to add some art glitter glue to it just to make sure it's going to stay sealed. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more of this blue. Okay, so it's pretty dry. So my goal, I'm going to try to make some of these. I'm going to cut them at like 1.5 inches wide. And then this one, let's see, 1.5. And let's see if I can find another one. If not, I'll just do 4. 1, 2, 3. So I have 5 spread out. I can collage this one onto here. This is going to be 1.5 inches. So I'll just go ahead and cut it to 1.5. And I'm just going to do this the same process that I did the other. And as a matter of fact, this leftover piece I'm going to add to it. And you know what? I'll just leave it in the middle and then add some of these little pieces going across. Yeah, that's what I'll do. So I'm going to distress these edges of all of them. So I'm going to do that to all of these. But before I do that, I'm going to complete this, and I'm just going to do some background stamping, add this on, and then collage these on top if it looks right. If not, I might just leave it solid without these. Okay, so as I was distressing these, I was coming up with different ideas of how to blend all these together. And I decided that these needed some individual stamps to set them apart. I mean, it's fine as a collage by itself, but it was kind of plain. So I decided to add some stamps on the ends of some of them. And so the stamp sets that I've used was, let's see, the Journey Cling stamp set by Stampers Anonymous, Tim Holtz, and the Professor 2 cling stamp. And then I'm also using this one, which is Ringmaster. I'm getting ready to use it. I'm gonna use this little pointing finger or pointing hand. I think I'll turn it one on each direction, or one on each end. And I'm still using that Ranger black tie ink. I think it makes it look more pronounced. So I'm going to glue these together. Now when I put this on here, I'm just going to glue these little pieces to the back of this, and then I'm going to glue it to here, so you'll have like brown, you know, and behind here. And then I'm going to stitch along the edges of each one, and I'll be right back. Okay, somehow I deleted the footage from where I actually completed these, so I went and made some more additional pins to where I was at when I last stopped off. So I've already stitched these on. They've already been Mod Podged and stitched and stamped. So now this is the process of assembly. So all you're going to do is basically you're going to fold these over in half. You know, make sure that it's completely in half and that it's going to cover up the ink pens. Go ahead and fold each one. And the first set that I made were black ballpoint pens, and I'm using blue ballpoint pens now, but not that it really makes a difference. But so that's what I'm doing right now. So you're going to take some double-sided tape and you're going to add some, make sure it's lined up to the very edge. You know, try to get as close to the edge as possible. And I use double-sided tape. Some people may use liquid glue, but to me the double-sided tape makes it seal better. So that's why I'm using it. Okay, so I have double-sided tape on both sides all the way to the top. But now for the middle portion, I'm going to start probably about an inch away from the center and then add some more double-sided tape. And I'm going to cover this entire area with the double-sided tape. Because I want to make sure that the ink pen is going to stay secure. And the reason why I didn't put any up through here is because when you fold it over, you may want to like punch a hole and put a paper clip or an eyelet, or you may want to add some extra embellishments. And I wanted to just leave enough room to where it wasn't too thick and sticky to allow that embellishment. So, and then you're going to turn it over, and once again you do the exact same thing. Just going to add your double-sided tape. About 1 inch away from the center. Or maybe a ½ inch away. It's not, might not be a whole inch, but it just leaves a little bit of room up at the top. And you're going to make sure your tape is smoothed down really well. And you're going to go ahead and peel it up. And I'm using a Tonic Studios piercer, paper piercer. Because it helps to pick it up better. Some people can use their fingers, but it's hard for me to do that, so I just use a paper piercer or something to peel it up. And after we get this peeled, we're getting ready to add the pen to the center. And it doesn't really matter which side you add your pen, as far as like if you want it turned this way or this way. It doesn't really matter since it's going to be double-sided anyway. So you're going to take your pen and you're going to center it as best you can. And you want to try to get the edge of it to about right there, just where the tip's kind of hanging out. And earlier I had messed up on some pens, and I did the same thing, and I had to add some tape around it to make sure that the ink wasn't coming out. And you want to make sure that that portion is definitely going to get covered up. So now that you've got this on here and in the center, you're just going to put them together. But make sure, carefully make sure that they're lined up before you stick them completely together. So make sure that this end matches up, you know. Then make sure your pen is still in the middle. And try to hold it in place in the middle. And then you're going to go ahead and line this up. And you've got both of these lined up, and your pen is in the middle. And you're just going to kind of work your way down, you know, keeping the pen centered. And if you want to, you can take a bone folder or something flat and just kind of make sure that it's sealed. And voila. And it's flat on this side, and it has a little bulk right here from where the pen shows, but that's still fine too. But you basically have your pen. And I'm going to finish these up and do these the same way. Okay, so these are pretty much done. But see how when I collaged, it left like a little piece of leftover paper, or the paper kind of hangs over somewhat? You can either clip it off or glue it back down. But either way, I'm just going to take some liquitex super heavy gel, and I'm just going to run just a thin layer across, and this is going to help it stay sealed. And it already had Mod Podge from earlier, but this is really going to make sure that it's not coming loose. This makes it much more sturdy, and it'll help it stay in place, and it'll help these stitches stay in place as well. So you just need like a thin layer on both sides. And that'll make sure that it's not going anywhere. It's sturdy. So when you go to write, you should be okay. Well, you should be okay anyway, even without it, but I just like to make sure that everything's sealed 100%. And just take your fingers and go across it. And when it dries, it's going to dry clear. So right there, you basically have it. So, and you can use these with journals, scrapbooks, all kinds of just little things. They make great little gifts and stuff. So I hope this video was inspirational and it helped you. And so continue to watch my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and thanks for watching.